There is a quiet paradox that exists in modern life. The more people talk, the more they endlessly share on social media, the harder it becomes to maintain true presence. In crowded rooms, it is often the loudest person who is easiest to forget, while the silent one draws every eye to look closer. Silence, which seems like emptiness, is in fact the most powerful sound, a kind of background music that makes others pause and listen. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That strength, when combined with deliberate silence, turns into a natural magnetism, not showy, not forced, but profound and enduring. The Stoics understood that to become trustworthy and captivating, one does not need eloquent words, but rather a steady state of mind, a presence that compels respect on its own. In a world that constantly urges us to prove ourselves, sometimes true allure comes from not needing to prove anything at all. When you choose to listen instead of interrupt, to remain calm instead of reacting, to let actions speak instead of words, that very silence radiates an irresistible energy. It ceases to be emptiness and becomes a force of attraction, something that makes others want to come closer, to discover, to walk alongside you. And this is what we are about to explore. 7 Stoic habits that help you become magnetic in silence, so that wherever you enter, without any display, you can still shine through your composure and inner strength. Habit 1. Observing more than speaking. Silence, in the Stoic perspective, is not an evasion of communication, but an art of presence. The one who observes more than they speak is like a painter who does not rush to paint the canvas before seeing the light clearly. They wait, they watch, they let the scene seep into their eyes and heart before lifting the brush. In everyday life, it is precisely that stillness which makes them stand apart. Seneca once reminded us, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we may listen more than we speak." This seemingly simple saying contains a timeless rule of conduct. A person becomes captivating not because their words are eloquent, but because they pause to observe, to listen, to understand the context before they speak. And when they do, their words carry weight, because they arise from maturity, born out of necessary silence. Picture a meeting where everyone scrambles to speak, to prove themselves right. Amidst all that noise, there is one person who sits quietly, eyes following each gesture, ears attentive to every detail. They do not rush to interrupt, but when the moment comes, a single calm, concise sentence is enough to shift the atmosphere of the whole room. It is the distillation within silence that gives such words their weight, so different from words hurriedly scattered like wind. Marcus Aurelius once wrote in Meditations, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Observation is what allows us to discern, to know what ought to be spoken and what should remain in silence to be preserved. A truly magnetic person convinces us that their words are not impulsive reactions, but the crystallization of a tranquil mind. Observing more than speaking is also a way of cultivating empathy. When we observe a face, the eyes, the way someone sighs or clenches their fist, we begin to understand them on a deeper level than words can express. The Stoics believed that to live harmoniously, we must learn to place ourselves in others' positions, and that can only happen when we stop rushing to judge, letting both eyes and heart open to the world. In today's society, where everyone wants to raise their voice, the one who keeps a silent space to observe is the one who truly stands out. They do not need to claim the stage, for the light naturally finds them. Their silence is not emptiness, but a sky layered with clouds and colors, drawing others in with curiosity to explore. So, how do we cultivate this habit? Simply, begin with the practice of active listening. Instead of thinking about how you will respond while someone is speaking, try listening only with the purpose of understanding. Write down one detail you observed during the day, the look in a colleague's eyes, the forced smile of a friend, or the change in tone of someone close to you. These small observations are the seeds of deeper understanding. The silent observer is not silent because they lack something to say, but because they deeply know that the world reveals itself not through words, but through the things often overlooked by the noisy. And for that very reason, they become magnetic, not because they create noise, but because they quietly hear the sounds others miss. Habit 2. Remaining calm in the face of praise and criticism. There is a simple truth that challenges us more than anything else. We are swayed not only by criticism, but also by praise. People often think they are only wounded by harsh words, yet in reality, when intoxicated by compliments, they too become puppets in the hands of others. The flatterer and the critic, though seemingly opposite, both hold power over us if we are too easily shaken. Epictetus once said, "If someone can make you angry, they are your master." This applies not only to anger, but also to the fleeting joy stirred by praise. When our mind depends on external approval, we lose our inner freedom. And the Stoics believed, to lose inner freedom is to lose dignity itself. Imagine a ship drifting at sea, every gust of wind pushing it in a new direction. Such a ship will never reach shore, for it has no inner compass. People are the same. If we let praise and blame govern us, we drift endlessly without ever knowing who we are. By contrast, the person who remains unshaken by noise is like a mountain. Winds may howl around its base, but the mountain stands firm, towering and immovable. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, once wrote in Meditations, "Do not let the words or actions of others control your soul." He lived in a court full of intrigue, where today's praise could turn into tomorrow's betrayal, yet Aurelius kept his mind tranquil. It was this calmness that made him a model of respected leadership. In daily life, we see this truth illustrated vividly. A manager who stays composed when criticized by an employee, listening instead of reacting harshly, then replying simply, "I will think about that." Such composure not only diffuses conflict but also earns respect, even admiration. Meanwhile, another manager might flare up in anger or rush to defend their ego, and in that brief loss of control, their credibility crumbles. The magnetism of silence, therefore, is born from an attitude of patience toward both praise and blame. A calm person does not deny the value of praise, nor do they dismiss the truth in criticism, but they do not let their soul become a drifting ship. They listen, receive, discern, and then let it pass, like the wind brushing past a mountain. Seneca once wrote, "A man who is not content within himself will never be steady." It is this inner contentment, this sufficiency from within, that makes a person truly magnetic. They attract not because they receive much praise, but because, whether praised or criticized, they remain themselves. So how do we cultivate this habit? One simple practice is to ask yourself whenever you hear praise or criticism, does this truly change who I am? If the answer is no, then smile, remain silent, and let it pass. For your real worth is not added by praise, nor diminished by criticism. It lies in the way you live day by day, choice by choice. The one who stays calm in the face of praise and blame is someone everyone wants to be around. In a world full of turbulence, they become an anchor. Their silence is not meaningless, but the quiet voice of a free mind, and that is a magnetism beyond compare. Habit 3. Mastering emotions in silence. Perhaps the greatest enemy of each of us is not the person in front of us, nor our circumstances, but the storm that rises within. Anger, fear, envy, shame, all are undercurrents strong enough to sink the ship of the mind at any moment. The Stoics understood this, and they regarded silence as an anchor, holding the vessel steady against the waves of emotion. Marcus Aurelius once wrote in Meditations, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." These words are not merely philosophy, but a spiritual remedy. They remind us that events in themselves are neutral. It is only our response that turns them into suffering or serenity. Think back to the last time you grew angry in an argument. In that moment, you may have felt justified, yet afterward, what remains is often exhaustion and sometimes regret. By contrast, imagine when someone deliberately provokes you, and instead you simply smile, stay silent, and refuse to react impulsively. In that moment, your composure makes you greater than the one who provokes. That is the magnetism of silence, not the absence of feeling, but the mastery of it. Epictetus, once a slave who became a Stoic master, warned, "Anyone who can anger you becomes your master." To remain silent in anger is therefore not suppression, but the preservation of inner freedom. A magnetic person is not cold like stone. Rather, they keep their mind like a lake. Though the wind stirs it, the ripples soon fade and the surface returns to calm. In daily life, we can train this habit with a simple practice. When emotions surge, pause for 3 seconds, take a deep breath, and quietly ask yourself, will this reaction truly benefit me? Those brief seconds create distance between you and the emotion, helping you choose your response instead of surrendering to instinct. Seneca practiced what he called rehearsing adversity, deliberately placing himself in uncomfortable situations to train composure. He knew that one who cannot master their emotions in small matters will be even more easily toppled in greater crises. This is the lesson for us as well. Mastering emotion not only grants us peace in daily life, but also the strength to endure life's larger storms. The one who governs emotions in silence radiates a unique magnetism. They are not dragged into useless quarrels, nor do they allow others to manipulate their mood. They are like an oil lamp. Though the wind may blow, it burns steadily, neither flaring violently nor extinguishing. In a chaotic world, such a person becomes a steady light, one others are drawn to, eager to follow and to learn from. Habit 4. Building presence through body language. Silence does not mean disappearance. On the contrary, sometimes silence makes one's presence more powerful than ever. Where words are absent, the body becomes the language every glance, smile, posture, and breath speaks aloud. And the Stoics understood this. If the mind is the root, then the body is the branches and leaves, casting the outward shadow of inner stillness. Marcus Aurelius once wrote in Meditations, "Let your actions be imbued with simplicity, modesty, and dignity." This is not only a reminder of ethical conduct, but also a philosophy of presence, a steady stance, a gaze that does not flinch, a light yet genuine smile. All are evidence of inner strength well trained. Think back to the last time you walked into a crowded room. Some people have not spoken a single word, yet the way they walked, slow, steady, natural, immediately drew your attention. They were not trying to display themselves, not putting on a show, yet they radiated an energy field that made others want to come closer. Their magnetism did not lie in sound, but in the rhythm of every gesture. Carl Jung once said that the human unconscious reveals itself through the smallest actions. Averted eyes, hurried steps, a limp handshake all expose an unsteady inner life. By contrast, calmness shows itself in how you look directly, in the firm grasp of your handshake, and in the way you sit upright without stiffness. These are silent declarations that you are in command of yourself. In Stoic culture, body language is an extension of virtue, for one who masters the mind is not easily restless in movement. When the inside is tranquil, the outside grows steady, and it is this harmony that creates lasting magnetism. People are not swayed by fleeting eloquence, but are moved by the consistency between the inner and the outer. So, how do we practice this? Begin with small things. When speaking, maintain eye contact just enough, not forced, not evasive. When walking, step slowly and firmly, as if each step carried weight. When sitting, keep an open posture, neither shrinking in nor flaunting. When smiling, let it spread gently across your face, rather than hurried or strained. The Stoics believed that body and mind are one. When you train presence in each gesture, you not only draw others toward you, but also reinforce your own inner state. You begin to live like a mountain, without words, yet standing tall, compelling others to look up. The magnetism of silence, therefore, is not an elusive mystery. It shines through every glance, step, and breath. And whoever cultivates this habit need not say much, yet they can command the attention of an entire room. Habit 5. Reflecting the inner self through actions. Silence is meaningless if it is not upheld by deeds. A person may speak very little, yet their work, perseverance, and results echo louder than any proclamation. The Stoics did not believe in empty promises. They believed that the way one lives each day is the truest mirror of the inner self. Seneca once emphasized, "Don't tell me how a man should live. Show me." Words, no matter how eloquent, vanish like smoke. But actions, however small, leave lasting imprints. A firm handshake, a task completed with care, a promise kept, these are the silent language far stronger than any speech. In everyday life, we can easily recognize this magnetism. A colleague who speaks little, does not boast, yet always delivers on time and is ready to help when needed. This is the person the team truly trusts. Or a friend who may not be skilled with comforting words, but shows up when you are in difficulty. Their presence is a silent but persuasive affirmation. Marcus Aurelius would remind himself each morning, "Today I shall meet people who are meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful, envious, selfish. But I will not let them rob me of my own virtue." This was proof of consistency. He did not merely write these words, but lived them. And it was that persistence which created a great legacy, one that still teaches us centuries later through his journals. Those who embody silent magnetism do not need to prove with words that they are trustworthy. They let their actions prove it. They do not say, "I am strong," but their patience in adversity is the evidence. They do not say, "I am honest," but their fidelity to promises is the proof. They do not say, "I love," but their willingness to give their time to loved ones is the true language of love. So, how can we cultivate this habit? Begin with one simple principle. Speak less. Do more. If you promise to help someone, fulfill it without boasting. If you want others to trust you, let consistency in your work and attitude do the speaking. Each day, choose one silent yet meaningful action. Helping someone, completing a task on time, or simply remaining patient and calm in a difficult situation. In a world full of empty promises, those who live by action stand out and captivate. Their magnetism is not noisy but enduring, not a flash of brilliance, but a steady glow. For as the Stoics believed, it is deeds, not words, that are the clearest mirror of the human soul. Habit 6. Choosing spaces and relationships wisely. Silence is not merely the absence of speech, but the art of knowing where to be present and with whom to walk alongside. For spaces and relationships are like the soil in which seeds are sown. Where you plant yourself, you will grow in the shape of that place. The Stoics understood that to preserve inner stillness, we must avoid meaningless noise and guard ourselves against being swept into toxic bonds. Marcus Aurelius once warned, "You become like what you spend most of your time with." It may sound simple, but it is a law of the soul. If you constantly surround yourself with noisy crowds chasing vanity, serenity will be hard to keep. If you bind yourself too long to those who live by anger and envy, their fire will eventually catch upon you. By contrast, when you choose peaceful spaces and friends of inner strength, you are nourished by energy that is positive and profound. Picture a garden. Flowers cannot bloom if they are hemmed in by barren stones. They need light, fertile soil, and open air to rise. So it is with us. Your silent magnetism cannot flourish if it is always drowned out by noise, disputes, or empty pleasures. Sometimes, stepping out of a loud room is the very way to keep your soul clear and radiant. In practice, we see this plainly. Someone who declines pointless gatherings and instead spends time reading, walking in nature, or sharing with a truly trusted friend. Such a person often radiates calm and depth. Their magnetism does not come from being everywhere, but from appearing rarely, with each presence carrying weight. Seneca once wrote, "Do not waste time on meaningless things, for life is not long enough for waste." Thus, silence is sometimes an act of withdrawal, not out of fear, but out of wisdom to preserve energy for what is worthier. A magnetic person in silence does not chase after every party, nor force themselves into every conversation. They know where their presence belongs, and where their absence is the wiser answer. To train this habit, begin with one simple question: does this space, does this relationship help me become a better version of myself? If the answer is no, then have the courage to withdraw, keeping your silence for what deserves it. Like a Stoic warrior, you need not fight every battle you choose, only the ones that matter. The magnetism of one who chooses spaces and relationships wisely lies in this. They are not easily swept into the whirlpool of the meaningless. They live slowly, appear at the right time, and let their silence itself become proof of discernment. In this restless world, they are like an oasis, rare, precious, and unforgettable to those who encounter them. Habit 7. The habit of meditation and self-reflection. The highest silence is not the absence of outer noise, but the stillness within the mind. There, the crowd's clamor is gone, the whispers of praise and blame disappear, and only you remain face to face with yourself. The Stoics understood that to be magnetic and steady in social life, one must first become a friend to the silence of the soul. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal every night, "The pages of meditations were never meant for the world's eyes, but for dialogue with himself, reflecting on each action, each thought of the day." It was this silent practice that gave him the inner strength to remain clear and calm amidst the turbulence of an empire. Carl Jung once wrote, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside, awakes. This saying reminds us, self-reflection awakens us from the illusions created by the outer world. When we spend time sitting still, breathing, observing the mind, we begin to see passing thoughts and fleeting emotions, and we learn not to be ruled by them. In that moment, silence becomes a mirror, showing us our true essence. In everyday life, those who practice meditation or journaling often radiate a unique magnetism. They are less carried away by impulsive reactions, less shaken under pressure. When you converse with them, you sense a depth, as if behind every word there lies a vast silence. They need not speak much, yet every word carries weight distilled from the practice of listening to themselves. The Stoics often recommended simple exercises. Spend 10 minutes each morning sitting quietly, observing breath and thought. Or each evening, write down 3 things you did that day and ask yourself, what could I have done better? These are not elaborate rituals, but a homecoming, a return to the soul, clearing away its unrest, so that tomorrow one steps into life with clarity and natural magnetism. The allure of those who meditate and reflect lies in this. They carry within them a stillness that others can feel. Amidst the noise of the world, they are like a lamp in a dark room, needing neither movement nor shouting, yet drawing others toward them. And this is the most enduring magnetism of all, the quiet strength of a serene, profound, and steadfast inner life. We have just walked through 7 habits to become magnetic in silence, from observing more than speaking, staying calm in the face of praise and criticism, mastering emotions, building presence through body language, letting actions reflect the inner self, choosing spaces and relationships wisely, to practicing meditation and self-reflection. Each habit is like a stone laid on the path toward lasting magnetism, a magnetism that does not need display, does not rely on glamour, but takes root in inner stillness and self-mastery. What matters is not merely reading and nodding, only to let it all pass like the wind. Stoicism was never meant for decoration, but for practice, for living. Seneca once wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." The same holds for cultivating this magnetic silence. If we only admire it from afar, we will never attain it. So begin small. This week, choose just one habit to experiment with. For example, practice listening fully to someone without interrupting. Or, when facing criticism, try holding silence for 3 seconds before responding. Or each night, before bed, write down one thing you observed about yourself during the day. These small steps, repeated consistently, will become a steady foundation. You will discover something remarkable. The silence you practice does not make you fade, but makes you shine more clearly in the eyes of others. People will seek you out, not because you are loud, but because you radiate steadiness. They will listen to you, not because you speak much, but because every word you say is distilled from a soul that has quietly matured. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself, "Be like a rock, against which the waves continually crash, but it stands firm, and the raging of the sea falls still around it." Let intentional silence become your rock. The storms of life will never cease, but if you train these 7 habits, you will no longer be swept away. Instead, you will stand firm, serene, and from that very steadiness, you will emanate an irresistible magnetism. Finally, remember this. The greatest magnetism of a person does not lie in words, but in the energy they carry. When that energy is stillness, self-mastery, and authenticity, you need not chase attention. Attention will naturally find you. So, are you ready to begin practicing your own magnetic silence, starting today?